Yeah, welcome to Utah, Jason. It's snowing everywhere, and I must thank you for coming here and getting me. I know. I'm wondering how you're feeling though, having an Australian driving on the wrong side of the road in the snow. But thank you. I'm very excited to be here. It's a big day. It's that time of year again when the guys at Storm tell me to come and do some testing on a new bowling board that I'm collaborating with them. So now I'm here. I want to get there. I want to see what they've got for me just so I can start throwing them. It's a very exciting process.
Finding his positive axis point.
Yes, you do. That is true.
Yeah, it's perfect. All right, so for two-handers, the center of their bridge is going to end up being the center of their grip. There's a couple of different ways that you can measure their PAP. What I like to do is actually do where the ring finger line meets the center line. So that's what we'll do for Jason here. And we'll see that he is 5 1/4 over and 1/4 down. So that'll give us some good information on what we want to do, especially with the no balance hold rule coming into play. So we'll work on some layouts for him as well.
So we're back here in the testing facility, and it's time to do some testing. And what I have in front of me right now are 2 different colors with 3 different cover stocks. Now the inside of this ball is the same as the Pro Motion. What's different is all of the covers are going to give us more angle than the spec cover that we wrapped around the original Pro Motion. The question is, how much angle do we want to see this next ball create? One of the things pretty much you hear unanimously across the bowling industry is they want to see their ball go through the pins with a lot of angle. They love that skid, flip, skid, snap type reaction. So we want to give that to the people, but we also have to give them just enough that they can control it. We could go absolutely wild here and make the most angular ball ever, but that's not conducive to high scoring. No matter who you are or how good you are, you still have to have some element of control. So here we have the 3 different covers that are going to give us more angle than the original Pro Motion, but they're going to be controllable, that you're actually still going to be able to repeat and get the ball going through the pins to give us our best angle of entry possible. So I'm going to run through some of these shots now. I've already thrown them a few times, so I've kind of loosened up a little bit. Now we can just run through them, pick the one that I like the best, pick the color that I like the best, and then run with that one. Let's see how it looks. All right, ball number 1. Let's see how she goes. Well, just that first shot compared to the Pro Motion, you can tell straight away it is much more angular down the lane.
Cleaner through the front part of the lane, sharper off the spot, for sure.
Okay, so now we're going to try a different cover, and as you can see, the color of this is slightly different than the previous ball. It's a lighter color. It's the same mixture of colors, but the cover stock additive does change the overall color slightly. So this ball has a stronger cover stock, I'll move a little further left, knowing that, and we'll see how it rolls. Well, I mean, I played more in the oil, and you can see that it still had quite a lot of down lane movement, which is really great to see. I don't think it was as much as the other one, which is good to know because it's not supposed to. But that seems like that seems closer to the Pro Motion than the previous one. Still very different from it, but closer to it than the one that I threw previously. More into the friction, so you could see more of that angle, and it certainly had a lot of kick. Not as much as the previous one, but still plenty. Okay, so now we go to the third option, which is the darkest color scheme of them all, and this has a reactor base as well. I think this is going to give us the most angle, so we're about to find out. Certainly cleaner through the front part of the lane. You can kind of see it really float through the oil, which is nice, especially later in a block or in the third game of League. When the lane has deteriorated, the oil has manipulated, you'll want something to get down there a little cleaner. But as that happens to the lane, you're going to want to move a little further left, so you still need to make sure that you have the angle to go through the pins right. Way more in the oil than the previous shot. I probably missed inside of target, down lane, quite a few boards. But the angle that it was able to create sent the pin flying across, sent the head pin across, take out the 10 pin for the messenger. So normally, when you're creating shape through the pins to get those messengers, it's because you are creating a considerable amount of angle. But normally it happens when the ball, is thrown a little further to the right and it's kind of coming up and it's hitting the head pin. But to create that much angle, while still playing more in the middle of the lane, it's pretty exciting. I like it. I like it a lot. So Alright, so now I'm going to test the secondary color version, which is more blue on blue. Previously we had, kind of the blue, orange / copper, and we'll see how much difference in ball motion the color has. And I will bowl with these balls in the exact same order so we can see close if the color change makes any difference in ball motion. So the first thing I noticed, just between the two different colors is, and I've always felt this, that the darker the ball, the longer it gets down the lane. It's not a rule set in stone, it's just kind of like what seems to happen a lot. So the lighter the bowling ball, the earlier I feel like it can roll. And that certainly rolled earlier than the exact same cover in the different color. We'll throw it again, and I'll play with this shot a little bit more in the oil, and we'll see if it can still go through the pins using that angle. Still plenty of angle, even though we bowled more in the oil, it still wanted to really take off in that back half of the lane, so it's good. good to see. Alright, we'll go to the next color, next cover. So we'll go to the next cover. And this obviously is more brighter than the rest as well, so I know this is going to be the strongest of the colors and the covers that I'm testing today. Move a little further left, let it float to the friction. You can see it certainly came off it, but we saw that slap 10-pin reaction. So that's telling me that the ball straightened up a little more than the previous ones. Angle not quite as sharp, but I'm still covering a lot of boards. We'll throw it again, and I'll see if I can get my hand around it a little more and actually create even more angle, and just see if the cover doesn't slow down too much, allowing me a little versatility with my release. So, got my hand around it a little more. It certainly wanted to change direction, but I don't know if you could tell, my eyes could see that it was a much sharper direction, but not nearly as much as the copper and blue one that was probably the darkest of them all. So now I'll go to the darkest shade of the blues that we have, which should give me the most amount of angle based off the cover that we're throwing on this. So we're about to find out. I'm looking forward to it. I actually think this is probably the prettiest of the balls, so I'm really hoping this one actually looks pretty good. Crept a little further left again, floated it through the middle part of the lane, the fronts, the mids, really gets through there cleanly, and that's really because of that reactor-based cover that we've put on this ball. You know, in order for any bowling ball to create angle down the lane, it can't have friction in the earlier parts of the lane. You want to see the friction happen later. So, you know, Storm's reactor-based covers are world famous, industry leading in the ability to get down the lane clean and create that really heavy arc snap on the back. My goal is to kind of go to the extreme with this next shot. I'm going to try to leave a 9-pin. Get that ball really floating out to the right, and let's see if this reactor-based cover wants to snap left. Not quite a 9-pin, but that got all the way out to the edge. It had absolutely no problem going high flush, sending 10 straight back. Now that, to me, it says a lot. It says that if you missed your mark down lane into the friction, you're not going to see the ball lose its energy when it hits that friction. It's going to create angle because that reactor base cover gives it the length. It gets the length down there. I really, really like that. Plus, I think it's the prettiest of the three balls, which, you know, you want to throw a pretty bowling ball. So I'm really glad to see that cover on those colors look really good, because that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. So if I had to pick right now, based off what you've seen, I'm probably going to eliminate the lighter color bowling balls. I feel like they're not far enough away from the Pro Motion. I want to see angle, skid, flip, clean this through the front. So Steve, if you can catch this one. Alex, if you can catch that one. Steve, if you can catch that one. And Alex, if you can catch that one. So that leaves me now with two options with the same cover. Now it's going to be about Now there are two options left to think about. One, which of the color variations do I like most, if at all? And two, what happens if we drill them differently? So I'm going to throw one shot of these right now, and all I'll be looking at is the color and how the swirl is going down the lane to see which one I think is most appealing. It's pretty. It's not that I don't like it. I really like it. I think the copper or the orange kind of makes it very identifiable going down the lane. I think the logo color, if this were to be the one that we choose as well, pops on that as well. I think it looks really good. My only reservation with this color is I think side by side you might not notice it, so you would see the difference. Sorry, side by side you'd probably see quite a contrast look, but I think using memory or seeing it from a distance, it looks a little bit like an intense fire. So that would be my only reservation of that color. Let's try the blue on blue. I think it looks pretty. I think it rolls amazing. To my knowledge, nothing in our line looks like that. To my knowledge, nothing in any manufacturer's line looks like that. So that's going to tick the box of uniqueness. It will be very identifiable. And the fact that it doesn't resemble anything that I've seen is probably why I'm leaning more towards the triple blue than the blue and copper. Don't get me wrong, Intense Fire in this, it's a beautiful ball, but there's nothing on the market that looks like this. So I think we're going to go with this one. And now the test is, well, what happens if we drill it pinned down without the weight hole? And how is that going to affect ball motion? Now, typically, the lower your pin, the smoother your ball motion will be. It's going to go a little straighter too. It's going to get a little bit more length. So I'm expecting this been very shiny, pinned down, no weight hole. I would imagine this ball is going to go a lot longer down the lane, a lot straighter, a lot smoother. And that's okay. So we'll make an adjustment and we'll see what happens. And then I'll play around with it a little bit and we'll see how a pin down drilling works with this cover. And if it's good, then at least I know that we have a lot of options with this ball. And then the next phase is we'll hit the surface with a little extra abalone and see what happens when we change the surface a little bit. Smooth, a little longer. That's a really nice shape, a really nice complement to my pin-up. And just as a comparison, I'll throw you my pin-up one right now. I'm going to have to move about 5 or 6 further left. Throw it exactly the same, and we're about to find out if that is going to be the right move. So there are 2 different drills. One that has a little more angularity, makes me move a little further left with the pin-up drill. And then we have the pin down, both with no weight holes, but a more smoother, a little straighter through the front line. Both really, really nice through the pins. Now we'll hit both balls with a little surface, and we'll see if that makes a big difference and how it rolls and if I like that. And if that box gets ticked, Well, we have looks, we have cover, and we have cover changes, cover surface changes. All those ticked, I think we're onto a really, really good ball. But I'm going to let a professional expert do that. Alex,
All right,
if
we're
you
gonna
don't mind.
yeah, we're gonna hit these with 2000. Bring the spot a little closer to you. It'll give you a little bit different look overall.
Okay. Now, as you're doing that, you're covering the entire bowling ball
Yes.
as per USB-C rules, correct?
Yep. Correct.
And 2000 grit is like a middle of the road type motion change. So we're looking to what? Still see quite a lot of angle in the ball, but get it to pick up a little sooner.
Absolutely. Not too early, not too late. It's going to be a good kind of benchmark surface to get an idea of what this surface is going to do.
So just before you hit that one, put the two together and let's just see the stark difference between this ball out of the box on the left and then hit with 2000. So first things first, still looks good. Not as shiny, obviously, but still looks good. And it is a quite a considerable change. So that's the first thing I think a lot of people need to remember is, hey, if your bowling ball needs a slightly different shape, it's okay to hit the surface of the bowling ball with an Avalon pad.
Absolutely, and everybody has a different style. So some people it might be better suited at the the polished finish. Some might need it even a little bit lower than 2000. Really just depends on what your speed to rev rate ratio is. Whether you're matched, whether you're a little rev dominant or a little bit speed dominant, you're always going to want to try to match that surface up to your game and what the oil pattern's given you.
Okay, so you've hit the pin up ball. Let's hit the pin down ball now as well.
Now, you're mentioning pin up and pin down, and I really liked one of the things that you actually said about that. You were talking about how the pin down ball you felt like allowed you to stay a little bit more right and went a little bit straighter.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people kind of get that information confused because you'll hear a little bit of the opposite. The pin down ball will want to roll earlier, but when you get the pin below the fingers, especially for a player that has a thumb hole, you're actually raising the RG and lowering the differential a little bit. So that's going to make the ball want to tumble a little bit more down the lane and go a little bit straighter because there's less instability in the core.
All right, now you can hold the camera for me while I throw these shots, okay? Now it's my turn to hold what I really want to hold. This is the thing that I make money doing, not holding that thing. A little air time. Well, I'm excited to see that shape. 2000 grit through the oil, pin up ball, angle at its maximum, and I could control it. It sent the pins flying backwards. It looked beautiful going down the lane. The cover stock is versatile. I like it shiny. I like it a little duller. I don't know if there's anything wrong with this ball. I think it's going to be a staple in a lot of bags. I think it's a great compliment to the Pro Motion. I think it's also a really great addition to our entire line. We have nothing with, the weight block numbers that this ball has mixed with a reactor resin base cover. So this isn't going to be like, oh, it's just like this or it rolls just like that. This is going to be something different. Ticks all the right boxes. Alex, Steve, thoughts?
Every single shot that you threw probably 20 shots there and you struck every single time. You struck from different parts of the lane. It's really, like you say, checking all the boxes of everything that we want to see. You're able to play straighter with it, play left with it, looks good shiny, it looks good dull. Even on the shots that you were talking about, you kind of missed with your hand a little bit. The pins still behave the right way, so I'm liking it so far.
And the one thing too, when you grab the pin-up version, you were sliding about maybe 52 or 53. And for me, that's where I like to play a lot, knowing my style, Jason. I like to slide left to 50, and it still gets around the... But the one important thing here I think we got to look at is that this is just what this ball, with these two different layouts, is doing in this environment. This lane surface, this oil pattern, was a 45-foot pattern. That's a lot of oil. This ball was handling it with no problem. But I'd like to see these in a different bowling center. I'd like to take these out into the field and let's get a little bit of a feel for what it's going to do in a different center when it's actually going to have a different pattern, different environment. different surface, different lane oil.
Now we're talking. Let's go on an adventure. We're going for an adventure to a brand new world to see what these things can do. No, I love it. I think you're exactly right. I mean, it's all well and good in a test facility that we maintain a certain way, that we put certain oil patterns down, that we're constantly doing our own testing on, but the real test, and I guess the last box to tick off is, what does it do in the wild?
In a different environment.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Exactly. Let's
so
do it.
let's head out there.
All right, let's take these balls. We're just going to take these two, pin up, pin down. See what magic happens.